Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And in today's range report, we're going to be taking a look at another cool Sig Sauer pistol. And as I am filming this video, as far as I can tell, this particular variant is currently out of production. It might be discontinued, but you never know when it comes to Sig because they bring things back into the catalog all the time. But the pistol that we will be taking to the range, shooting and talking about is the Sig Sauer P229 Combat. And I was assuming because it's called the Combat, it might be part of some military contract. But as far as I can tell, they just call it the Combat because of the features that they put on it. The first one is very obvious. It has a two-tone finish. We have a flat dark earth anodized frame, a black nitrided slide. It has a mil-spec M1913 rail on the front, so pretty much this is a P229R. It comes with a set of Sig Light night sights, but that's pretty standard on most Sig pistols these days. But it does have a chrome-lined barrel, and they pretty much only reserve that for certain military models. So that is kind of cool. Of course, the 229 is a compact version of the P226. It's a double-stacked 9mm. And when it comes to the 229, it's a modernization of the old P228, which originally was manufactured using the stamped sheet metal type of slide, but this is made from bar stock stainless steel, and the internals are enhanced and beefed up a little bit because this gun can also be chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson and .357 Sig. So that's what I know about this pistol. It definitely looks really cool. So I can't wait to get this to the range and find out how it shoots. But before we get this to the range and talk about all the things that I like and don't like, as always, I want to thank the people that help make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this very beautiful Sig pistol. He's a local fan and subscriber named Jack. In fact, he's the first Jack that has lent guns to the channel. I now know two, so I'm going to call him Jack number 1. Thanks again, Jack, for lending this pistol for me to review. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not do this without their support. And if you want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, there will be a link in the description below, and you get to see all these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor who provides the ammunition for these range reports and makes them financially feasible for me, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And here we are shooting another classic Sig pistol. And most likely, if you're here, you love classic pistols, guns that have military heritage, things like Colt 1911s, Browning high powers, CZ75s, or Beretta 92s, and you probably have a few in your collection. You might even have some family heirlooms, and you might be in the market for a set of customized wood grips to make these guns unique and one of a kind. Well, the grip company you need to check out is Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark can apply custom logos, custom engravings, custom textures, finish these grips in a wide variety of colors. He can create his own laminate woods and even apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin to these grips to make them unique and one of a kind. Anything you can imagine, he can make. So I'm going to put a link to his website in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. I'm going to ask you to go over there and check out everything he has to offer. And when you place your first order for your set of custom grips, please tell Mark the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so once again, let's talk about the pistol we have on the workbench today. The Sig Sauer P229 Combat. Essentially, it's a P229R because it has a rail. It is a 9mm compact pistol, and it's the compact version of the P226. It has a 15-round capacity magazine. The barrel length is 3.9 inches. It has an overall length of 7.1 inches. It has front cocking serrations, an FDE frame. I already mentioned it has an M1913 rail. It comes with Sig Light night sights, but that's pretty standard on most SIG pistols, as I mentioned. And also, this particular gun has an SRT trigger in it. Now, the SRT trigger stands for short reset trigger, and I absolutely love this about this gun. But I have to be honest with you, I installed this trigger for my friend Jack. Originally, this pistol came with the old standard trigger, and if you want to watch the video on the installation of the SRT, there will be a link in the description below as well. And I absolutely love this. It is an OEM option. So before we talk about the things that I like and don't like, I want to give you some close-ups of this trigger and show you how well it works. And as I mentioned, I changed the trigger out in the Sig P229 with an OEM Sig SRT, or short reset trigger. So I want to show you what that looks like. I'll go ahead and drop the magazine, ensure there is no ammunition in it. And of course, safety check the weapon, make sure there is no ammunition in the chamber. So now let me show you the double action pull, and this is pretty much the same as the original trigger. It is heavy, it is long, and that pretty much acts as your safety, because you would carry this with one in the chamber and the hammer down, and like a double action revolver, that long heavy trigger pull is your safety. You really have to want to pull that trigger for it to go off. But now let's take a look at this trigger in single action. We have a moderately long take up, but it is smooth. It comes back to a definitive wall. It breaks pretty well. And now here's where the SRT shines. That's it. Look how short that reset is, and now you're right back at that wall. That is a huge upgrade, and I think really enhances the shooting experience of these pistols. So now let me get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge. Let me clear the averages, and let's test this trigger out. We'll start with double action first. And for our first pull, we have 11 pounds, 7.7 ounces. I told you that is pretty heavy. 11 pounds, 3.8 ounces. 11 pounds, 4.2 ounces. 10 pounds, 13.5 ounces. And finally, we have 11 pounds, 7.6 ounces, which gives us an average of 11 pounds, 4.2 ounces. So that double action pull is definitely pretty darn heavy, but it would work great as a safety, just like a double action revolver. So now let's go ahead and test this pistol in single action. Let me go ahead and clear the averages out, and let's try it again. For our first pull in single action, we have 5 pounds, 2.6 ounces. 4 pounds, 15.9 ounces. 5 pounds, 6.1 ounces. 5 pounds, 3.9 ounces. And finally, we have 4 pounds, 15.6 ounces, which gives us an average of 5 pounds, 2.4 ounces. And as you can see, that is not the heaviest or the lightest trigger in the world, but I think it's right in that sweet spot for a duty pistol. So now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I like. First thing I love about this gun is that it is a P229. I think it's just a very well-designed, robust gun that is very balanced. I love the two-tone look of this P229 Combat. I just love two-tone guns, and I love flat dark earth. Of course, I love the rail on this. It really modernizes the P229. We have a double action, single action trigger, which I prefer in all of my Sig pistols. I know a lot of people like the single action only variants, but I prefer the double action, single action, and I love the fact this barrel is chrome lined. You might not be able to see it in there, but that is just like the Mark 25, the Navy SEALs P226. But now let's talk about something about this gun that I don't like. And actually, there's nothing. As it sits here on the table, I pretty much like everything about it. I don't see a single flaw in it. I just love the P-Series of pistols, and the 229 is just a classic. So now it's time to get this to the range and see how it shoots. So as always, I'm going to start with the target at 7 yards, put a magazine through this, and just get my initial thoughts and experiences documented on film. So let's go to the range and see how this thing shoots. And so this gun is grouping a little bit low, and this is actually something I was prepared for, because when I picked up this pistol from my friend Jack, he had only recently got this, and he took it to the range once or twice, and he told me it shoots really low for him. In fact, it might be unusable. And I know that when it comes to Sig pistols, typically they do shoot low, because a lot of people say they are designed to be used with a combat hold. And what that means is you put the front dot a little bit above the rear notch. You don't line up the 3 dots, you actually put the front dot a little bit higher. And normally when I shoot Sig pistols, I have to hold it this way, and normally I don't have to raise the front of the gun that much. But I was expecting this thing to shoot really low because of what Jack said, and it actually did. And then I had to kind of walk the group up a little bit. But once the front sight got so high, the windage got a little bit weird because I was no longer using the notch in the back. And so what he was saying has come true. This gun is shooting really, really low. So hopefully I can kind of figure out how to hold this gun and where the point of impact is going to be relative to the sights. So now let's go back to the range, and I'm going to shoot for the head on this silhouette target. I'm going to double the distance, put another magazine through it, and hopefully I'll be able to dial this one in. And I am definitely not happy with how this pistol is grouping. It's shooting really low. In fact, the lowest shots that you just saw were the first rounds through this magazine, and then I had to walk it up, and now I have this front sight so far above the rear, it truly is unusable, and adding this distance is only exacerbating this problem. So I want to test something now at 5 yards, but I do want to say I am liking this SRT trigger. It does improve the shooting of this gun a lot, especially compared to the old standard SIG pistols. But this trigger is not affecting this point of impact at all. So I want to see if I can figure this issue out. So now what I'm going to do is set out a target at 5 yards. And on the left, I'm going to use a standard hold. I'm going to align the 3 dots in the rear and just see where it groups. Then on the right side, I'm going to put 5 more rounds through it, and I'm going to see how high I have to hold this front sight above the rear sight to get it to hit the center of the target. So at 5 yards, hopefully I'll be able to figure something out. So let's go back to the range and see what I discover. And so even at 5 yards, you can see this gun is grouping very low, and that group is not very good. Now, I know some people are going to say, Jason, you're just a terrible shot. But I am going to ask you to go to my other reviews and my other range reports and actually see I can be a decent shot, especially with certain guns. Now, normally I don't bring the targets home from the range, but in this case, I felt it was a necessity. So here's the target you just saw in that range footage. And here, the target on the left, you can see my group. It is definitely low. We did have 3 shots right here in the green, but that group is not very good. And then here on the right, you can see my 5-shot group, and I walked it up. And what I discovered is in order for me to hit the center of that target, I had to put the front sight completely above the rear notch. So pretty much it was like using a bead sight on a shotgun. This pistol does shoot that low. Now, what's causing this? Is it a non-concentric barrel? Maybe. Is it the wrong sights had been installed? Well, that's a possibility. In fact, some people on my behind the scenes channel, the Texas Gun Vault 2, mentioned that as being a possibility. I don't really know, but most SIGs shoot low for me, but not this low. So going on in this range report, I'm just gonna have to be aware that I'm gonna have to aim almost for the top of the target, especially at the furthest distances. And speaking of that, let's go back to the range and see what the tightest group I can get with this pistol is. So I'm going to set out the target at 25 yards, and I'm going to aim for the head on this silhouette. So hopefully this gun will group somewhere in the center of the torso. So let's go back to the range, shoot this from a barrier or the bench, and just see how good the group can be if I take as much of the human element out of the equation as I possibly can. And that's actually not a bad group at 25 yards. Unfortunately, I was pretty much shooting for the head to get that group at the bottom of the torso, so it's just shooting too low. But if you can get the sights right on this, it would probably be a pretty darn good shooter. Now, the rest of this range report is going to be talking about this gun's functionality. We have already discovered it shoots too low and it's pretty much unusable. But I do want to test out its double action trigger pull first. So now let's go back to the range. I'll put another magazine through this, and after every shot, I will use the decocker and just see what type of group I can get with it is in double action only. And this result honestly surprised me. Normally when it comes to these SIG pistols in double action, I shoot them really well, but not this one. And a lot of it has to do because I have no idea where on this target to hold these sights. But I always want to test the double action pull, because if you carry this like it is intended to be carried, your first shot will always be in double action. And this trigger pull is quite heavy. And so I do think you need to practice with it in double action only occasionally, just in case you have to use this gun in self-defense. Now, the next test I want to do is a hollow point test. And speaking of using this gun in self-defense, if you do carry it, most likely you're going to carry hollow points, and you want to make sure, are they going to run? Sometimes guns just don't feed hollow points very well. So let's go back to the range, put some hollow points through it, and see if it works, ejects, and functions properly. And as expected, the gun ran flawlessly. In fact, the entire time at the range, I haven't had any functionality issues. The only issue I'm having is that point of impact being so low. And so the last test I want to do is a 3-in-1 test. I want to, number one, see, can I shoot this gun fast? Hopefully with the SRT, I will be. Number two, I want to see, can I drop the magazine, get a fresh one in here, and get the gun back in action in a pretty short amount of time? And I also want to know, is this gun point shootable? And the reason I test for this is, even though many people think in a self-defense scenario, you're going to have tons of time to draw your gun from the holster, put those sights on target. Well, the adrenaline might be flowing through your veins, and you might not have all that much time. You can only point the gun and pull the trigger. And in that case, is this gun naturally pointing? So I want to test these three things out. So let's go back to the range, shoot it fast, and see what I discover. And so let's break the results of this test down. Can I shoot this gun fast? Yeah, I can shoot it pretty fast. I only had one hang up, but I think that's because my finger was getting a little bit fatigued. That was 30 rounds, and around 27 or 28 rounds in, I had a little hiccup. I think I was just getting a little bit tired. It had nothing to do with the gun or the SRT trigger. Now, can I change the magazine out quickly? Well, I kind of was a little bit slow on that. And that's because this mag well really is kind of small. I think a good test for any carry gun is to see if you can drop a magazine and reinsert it without looking. And you can see I stumbled right there. That's where having a gun with a nice mag well or a jet funnel works really nice. This one, a little bit hard to find if you're not looking at it. And finally, is this gun point shootable? Actually, yeah, that tells me that it might be the sights when it comes to this issue with the point of impact. When I'm not really looking at the sights and just pointing the gun, all those rounds were pretty much on the silhouette, all over it. So I think it might be the sights. This gun is very naturally point shootable. So I'm really impressed with that result. So what are my final thoughts on the Sig Sauer P229 Combat? Well, this definitely is a great looking gun. In fact, this might be the best looking P-Series pistol I have ever reviewed. I love this two-tone look. I love all the options, the rail, the front cocking serrations. It's just an awesome pistol, except it shoots way too low, and honestly, it is unusable. I really will recommend to Jack to see if he can find a different set of sights for this. Unfortunately, this is not an optics-ready model, so you can't put on a red dot. So you have to find some type of iron sights that are going to work. So he might have to explore that as an option. So on my star system, how would I rate the Sig P229 Combat? Well, I would give it 4.5 stars out of 5, but because it hits the target so low, I can only give it 2.5 out of 5. That's it. It's not a great review. And I could have given it a lot better score if the point of impact was just a little bit higher, but still shooting a little bit low. But honestly, it's unusable. It could be the sights, could be the slide, could be the barrel. I just don't know. I've never seen a pistol shoot like this before. So what do you guys think about the point of impact with this gun? What do you think the problem is? What is the issue? And how would you diagnose it? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.